Some crazy times going on for the Golden State Warriors. There's no doubt about that. National media is covering it. It's the talk of the town. And Kylen has not had a chance to express her side of things since the video was leaked. So Kylen Mills is going to break down her thoughts on the video that everyone has seen by now. And what's next for the Golden State Warriors? They also played the Los Angeles Lakers last night in a preseason game. We'll break that down and so much more next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Dogsurf Roadshow. Kylen, I did a sixth show last week. We do 5 typically per week, but the sixth one was warranted and necessary because of the video that leaked after we were done recording. So I did a live show, took about an hour, tried to address every angle of it. Have not had a chance to hear your thoughts on this really ugly video of Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole. What was your reaction and what are your thoughts on it?
It was shocking just seeing the video for the first time because you hear about a hit, you hear about a punch, but I still didn't picture that much force being behind the actual hit and the vitriol that it felt like or it looked like Draymond Green really came at Jordan Poole with, and the way he walked up to him and kind of instigated the initial contact, got in his face. We didn't have any context, until seeing that video. The outside world didn't, aside from just that there was some sort of scuffle. You didn't know what role either player had in that happening. And so that, I think, painted a little bit clearer picture. And it just made Draymond Green look that much worse because you saw how much force he put behind that punch. And the fact that he's the one who initially got up in Jordan Poole's face after some words were said, it made him look very clearly like the aggressor, which, disappointing and hard to watch. More of my shock and concern is regarding the response to it. I have a big problem with the people who are, just normalizing this by saying it's family, families fight. Families do fight. Dysfunctional families go to blows and turn to violence. That is not a normal and healthy way that families cope with disagreements or discourse, is by punching each other forcefully in the face. And I understand that this Warriors organization feels like a family, but to me, that shouldn't be acceptable in a family. And, if that's your justification for it, and what families fight, what you punched your brother when you were a kid, when you were 8, 9, 10 years old, Draymond Green is a 32-year-old man who should know better than that, and who should have more emotional control than that of a child. So to me, I don't know. To me, it's been a little bit disappointing just to see some of the responses from various figures who seem to be willing to write this off or to normalize this behavior and saying, oh, well, it's a family, families fight. This should have been dealt with in-house. And then, I don't know, I guess just that's the first thing that concerns me. And then the people who are more angry or upset about the leak than the actual punch itself, because it seems like from certain individuals and directions, they're more upset and more angry that someone leaked the video than the fact that Draymond punched Jordan Poole in the first place. And to me, that should be the point of concern, is why did this happen? How do we appropriately deal with it? And how do we get this team to move on rather than focusing all of the anger and energy on the person who leaked the video? And don't get me wrong, leaking the video is a problem. And I understand that's a breach of trust in this organization. That's something they should investigate and they should look into and figure out how and why it got out. But to me, that's not the root of the problem, right? Because the video doesn't get leaked if Draymond Green doesn't approach Jordan Poole and get in his face and then punch him aggressively. So that should be the focus of the anger, is why did this 32-year-old man who's been a leader of this team and who's been someone who's, really touted his ability to lead and to help younger players and to grow younger players and to grow the organization, it's just a total breach of trust. And it's a total stab in the back to then go and punch your teammate in the face with that much force. And he's very fortunate that Jordan Poole didn't get hurt, because with the amount of force he threw that punch, I am shocked that he didn't have some type of facial structure injury. I really am. Because it looked like it was really hard. And and Draymond Green is much bigger than Jordan Poole. So
Mhm.
like, it's fortunate this didn't end worse. It really is, because Jordan Poole could have really been hurt. So I don't know. So those are my two big thoughts. Like, first of all, it was really hard watching the video. Second of all, like, I just feel like some of the reactions are really misguided and being more angry about the person leaking the video than the actual attacker. And to me, that's just like, when you talk about families, and that's something that Steve Kerr brought up as well, and if your family had a fight, wouldn't you want it dealt with in house? And like,
He said that. Correct.
and I know people who have been affected by abuse in their family very personally, people that are close to me. And, the bigger focus on, protecting the attacker from public scrutiny, that to me is concerning versus protecting the individual who got attacked. So I feel like some of the responses have been a little bit backwards in which part of this should be emphasized and which part of this is the bigger concern. And to me, how did this happen in the first place and why? That should be the focal point, not the leak being the focal point. And again, I think both are issues, both are breaches of trust. But I don't know. To me, that was just like a little bit disappointing to hear some of that being said, or that rhetoric. But my final thoughts are that it's not something I don't think the Warriors can move on from. However, I would like to see, and I think they could still suspend Draymond Green for a couple games. I do think that what happened warrants this. I do think that they need to set a precedent that this behavior is not going to be tolerated. This is not the type of environment they want to have at their practices, and then move on and then look to figure out how do we piece this back together. To me, I don't know, because I'm not in the locker room and I don't know the relationships within this team, but it would seem that Draymond Green could potentially earn the trust back of his teammates. The question is, can he earn the trust back of Jordan Poole? That
Right.
I don't know their relationship that intimately. I don't know what other players are thinking about this right now. But in order to move forward, Draymond Green has to figure out, not just in words, I think he said all the right things during the press conference, but now in actions, how he can earn back the trust of everyone across the board in this organization, and especially Jordan Poole, because those two, for the Warriors to win a championship this season, are both keys to
Mhm.
win. And Jordan Poole is going to play a huge part in that. That sixth man role is crucial. His ability to come in and score points off the bench. And we saw how dynamic he was in that game last night. Such a fun player, really developing into a special player. There cannot be any type of resentment. There cannot be hurt feelings. There cannot be bad blood in this locker room. And you even mentioned, Cyrus, that you've heard some behind the scenes stuff that, maybe he is not completely moved on, or that Jordan Poole is not okay after this, and he's not, he's still upset, which is understandable. But to me, that's going to be the big key in whether or not the Warriors can really move on from this, is figuring out how Draymond Green can earn that trust back from Jordan Poole. And I don't know is it possible? I don't know. Because again, I don't know the inner workings of their relationship. I don't know where Jordan Poole is at, but I don't think I would blame him if he's like, listen, like, I don't know if our relationship can come back something like this, because not only did he have to endure the punch, then he had to relive it in the humiliation with the video getting out there. And like, that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
So, I really hope the Warriors can move forward. I don't think this is something, oh my gosh, their championship hopes are ruined. Like, I've seen that out there on the internet. I don't think that's true. A preseason punch, it was horrible, but I think it's something they can come back from. It's just going to be up to the players to figure out if and how they come back from it.
Eloquently put. Speaking of the issue of worrying about the leak versus the violent act itself, there's a lot of sound we're going to play today. The Warriors had practice, and thanks to I do have to give love, as always, to NBC Sports Bay Area, because they post a lot of these clips on Twitter. Saves me a lot of time of having to do the editing myself. So thank you. And again, all members of the media have access to these files, but I do, again, thank you to NBC Sports Bay Area for doing the editing for me. So this was from today's practice. And this was Kerr talking about these multiple issues facing the team.
Hey, Steve, there's a perception out there, I don't know how widespread, that regarding the Draymond thing, that you considered the leak a more serious problem than the actual incident. How would you, react to that?
I'm concerned about both. They're both a problem. The incident was a problem. The leak was a problem. I don't rank these things. My job as a coach is to prepare us to play, to make sure we can put the best team on the floor possible. And that job requires a ton of navigation, and it's very tricky. And it's made much trickier, when there is a leak, because then everything's out in the open. So the job is to handle everything behind the scenes with conversations and then when it's out in the open, answering questions, like this one. But we are going to get through all this, and we're going to be okay. But it's that was a long way of saying they both concern me.
Quick follow-up on that, I guess, is just Draymond said that he didn't know how long he was going to be stepping away from. Do you have any idea or clarity on how much longer?
No clarity. Again, something that we're handling internally.
And there you go. I mean, I guess he basically just. I mean, we haven't heard any of these clips, Kylen. Just to let the audience know, we haven't prepared for this in terms of reacting. So he literally just addressed what you're saying right there, which is kind of crazy. In just a moment, we'll react to that and so much more. Got to first give some love to a relatively new sponsor of this program, and that's LinkedIn. And there's that cute overlay right there. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. I used to be a business owner. I know firsthand how difficult it is to find good talent out there. And LinkedIn Jobs does that. Not to mention for people looking for work, LinkedIn is invaluable. It is where people find work more times than not than any other source. So LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Basketball Preview 2022. It's now out, a 6-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NBA season. The local team experts and the NBA insiders of the Locked On Podcast Network and Odyssey all combining into one ultimate NBA preview. Search for Ultimate Pro NBA Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Follow Kylen Mills on Twitter and Instagram at Kylen Mills. So what's your reaction to Kerr there? I mean, he seems to understand that those are both big issues. He's not ranking them. Your thoughts?
First of all, I feel like you started out that LinkedIn read with like an accent. Can you do that again? Like you started that. Like, did you notice that? You said it like that. You were like, I don't even know if it was Southern. I don't know what it was.
These days, every new potential hire. Yeah,
like
I
these
hear
days,
what you're saying.
I swear you had an accent.
I did. No, I did. It was a Southern. I don't know why I did that. It was a Southern accent. You're right. These days, every new potential hire.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, where did that come from?
I lived in the South for 2 years. It came out. I don't know why.
Okay, hell yeah. All right, LinkedIn, a friend of the South. Back to Steve Kerr, though. Sorry, I had to say something because I was reading it, but did not want to interrupt and prevent the listeners from getting that great LinkedIn content.
No, you're good. You're good. I promise.
I had to mention it that I liked your accent. In regards to what Steve Kerr said, I think that he walked it back a little bit clearly from what he talked about the other day on the podium. I think that that's why that perception is out there, because his initial comments the other day really did make it seem like his main concern was the leak and not the actual punch. And he was very adamant in saying, well, families fight, this should have stayed in house, blah, 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 blah. And it made it seem like his focus was on, like I said, protecting Draymond from the outside world and from the scrutiny and the organization, and not on the actual fact that the punch had occurred, and protecting Jordan Poole.
Right.
And to me, because that's the problem to me, is what message does that send to Poole when you're going out there and the first thing and the main thing you're talking about is why this got out there to the public and ultimately, got out there into the open, as Kerr said.
Yeah.
Whereas it should have been about, hey, Jordan Poole didn't deserve this. This is a horrible thing that happened to him. We need to protect, him and the future of the organization from allowing this type of thing to happen. And, like I said, I think it's just important to set a precedent that, like, hey, this isn't going to be allowed. I mean, Draymond got suspended a game, I think at least a game, for that altercation or for the verbal altercation with KD that happened during
Correct.
a game.
One game,
He
yes.
cussed out. But I'm just saying, so it's like you got suspended for cussing someone out, but he's not going to get suspended from an actual regular season game. I mean, we don't know at this point since the Warriors are saying they're keeping it internal and we haven't learned any additional information. But initially, Bob Myers' reaction was that he wasn't going to miss any time. He'd be there for the opening game. And I just think that punishment does not fit the crime. Like I said, when you're talking about a verbal, cursing incident getting a 1-game suspension, and that was a very aggressive punch. To me, there should be a few game suspension, no questions. And preseason games don't count. They don't mean anything. I'm sorry, but like that's not a factor. So I don't know.
So you're advocating for Draymond to be suspended for regular season games. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Well,
I think
so how does that play out? How does that play out I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just the ring night thing is where this is all gets very muddled, and because it's supposed to be like one of the best nights of your franchise's entire existence. And that would kind of mar that a little bit. I mean, you're saying despite that, suspend him?
It's definitely a tricky situation to navigate, given that ring night totally throws a wrench in everything. I mean, is there a possibility of letting him take part in the ring night but not play? Is there or still be on the bench potentially supporting his teammates? Because if anything, I feel like that's what Draymond needs to be doing right now, is earning that trust back and being supportive of his teammates. Could he not dress and come to the game and take part in the ring night and then be there on the bench cheering everyone else on, or taking on, more of that leadership role from the sidelines? So I don't know. Over my pay grade, but I feel like there's got to be a way that they could still work it out to where it wouldn't like spoil the entire ring night celebration. He wouldn't have to miss the ring night celebrations. You've got to have the whole team there for that.
Yeah.
You want everyone to be able to participate, but is there a way that you can still deal an appropriate punishment while allowing him to be included in that celebration?
I've never. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying it's unfortunate because it's the first game of the season, so it makes it so difficult. I'm like, what, they're going to let him play in that game and suspend him the following 2 or 3 games? Like, yeah, that's awkward. But like I said, would there be an option to like, hey, he's going to come, he's going to be on the sidelines, he's going to support the team and take part in the celebration and just not play, but still be involved? I wonder if that would be an option. The ring celebration definitely makes it tricky, but I don't think that he should be abdicated from any punishment because that's scheduled. And, I think he has a right to be a part of that. Yeah. However, I also think that he deserves to be appropriately disciplined for the punch. And to me, there should be a regular season suspension. Short term, nothing crazy. I'm not going off the deep end. And some people are saying kick him off the team, get rid of him, whatever. I still think that depending on how his teammates react, he could potentially earn the trust back and move forward with his organization. But it needs to be dealt with. And there needs to be some accountability for what happened. And to me, without a single 1-game suspension, that to me, like I said, just the punishment does not fit the crime. And there's not that sense of accountability.
I can't disagree with anything you said. I don't think, first of all, I don't think this is above your pay grade when you consider how many. Let me rephrase that. When you look at some of the people who are in charge of NBA organizations, no, you're not out of your pay grade. You make a great point. They suspended Draymond for a game for a verbal altercation with Kevin Durant. Granted, it was in game. Granted, the team was desperate to keep Durant at the time. That shouldn't matter, but it sadly oftentimes does. Yeah, I don't, I can't disagree with you on any of that. You bring up trust. And I want to play this soundbite. This is from last night, Kevon Looney during the post-game press conference. And this immediately followed a question I'd asked him about him growing as a leader. He was then asked about the trust issues with the team, and more specifically with Draymond Green. Anthony Slater asked this question, and here's what Kevon Looney had to say.
Speaking of kind of that leadership, what's just your view on what's gone on the last week and kind of where it currently sits with Draymond away from the team?
It's been different. It's been complicated. There's something. We done had a lot of things happen here in my time, but a lot of things usually get to stay in house and we get to handle it most of the time like that. So it's a little different with it being out in public and all the outside commotion, weighing in on people's decision on what people think. So it's different. It's difficult but I think we got the leadership and the right people to get through it. And whenever adversity hits, this team usually responds the right way. And this is the ultimate test for us. And I think we're gonna be able to get through it. Jordan, he's gonna work and do what he's gonna do. And Draymond, he's a veteran. He's been the leader on his team for a reason. And he got some work to do to get that trust back from us. But I think he's willing to do it. So.
Yeah, I've never in my life heard any of Draymond Green's teammates publicly speak out. I know Kevon Looney was not speaking out against him, but he wasn't exactly endorsing him either. When you're saying publicly that one of your teammates needs to regain trust, needs to earn trust, that is a strong implication that trust is broken. And so there's some repairing to do, and we'll get a reaction to that video in just a moment. First, I got to give some love to another longtime sponsor of this program, and that's BetOnline. They're your number one source for football betting information this season, and more specifically, BetOnline.net. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you could find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. We got a Monday Night Football game tonight. There's just so much to bet on right now. You got NFL action, baseball playoffs, NBA regular season starts a week from tomorrow, not to mention MMA, boxing, golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills, and same with Instagram. Your reaction to Kevon Looney saying that trust is essentially broken between Draymond Green and the team.
Not a big surprise. I mean, what Draymond did, like I said, when he's a leader of this team, it was a breach of trust, ultimately, not just against Jordan Poole, against the entire team, because the entire team looks up to Draymond. And that's something that's been made very clear throughout his tenure at the Golden State Warriors. He is considered a leader on and off the floor. And for a leader to then go and do something so egregious to a teammate whose back he's supposed to have, who he's supposed to be helping grow the career of and teach the young players the way, it's an egregious breach of trust. And it doesn't surprise me that Kevon Looney says that there are some reparations that need to be made across the board within the Warriors. It's not just Jordan Poole who's being affected by this. It's all the players, especially now that it's in the public light. They're under scrutiny as well. And I'm sure, and I think it was actually Marcus Thompson published in one of his initial articles right after it, that some of the players had not seen necessarily what happened until that leak got out, until the video got out. Their backs were to what was happening. They were focused on the scrimmage. And that was hard for a lot of those players to watch. And it was shocking for some of those players to watch. And, I think it probably hurt them too, to see Draymond go and do something like that to a teammate. I'm sure it was very disappointing across the board. And so, he has to now re-earn the trust, not just of Poole, but of the coaches and of the other players. That being said, Draymond strikes me as someone who's willing to put in the work, and he's fought back from adversity before. And he seems like someone who is a team player, and that he is willing to do whatever it takes to earn the trust of his teammates back. And that's what he said. I mean, when he did talk on the podium this weekend, those were the initial comments that he made, that he wanted to do whatever it takes. He wanted to, through actions, really earn that trust back. So it just remains to be seen, whether or not he can successfully do that. I think that he definitely can with the rest of his teammates. My only question is Jordan Poole. How do you repair that how do you repair that relationship? But Draymond Green has been so solid and such a staple of this team. I would be shocked if he's not going to put in the work and at least try.
Yeah, I agree. And, I had two sources at Chase Center last night tell me that Poole and Draymond have not communicated outside of the practice facilities, meaning Draymond has not reached out to him yet. Poole is not happy. Now, whether or not that could change remains to be seen. And Steve Kerr actually shared a message with his young players. I want to play the soundbite real quick, letting them know that this is not normal. And this is certainly not behavior that the team or anyone should condone.
I was thinking more in the case of where their heads are after what happened last week.
Oh, in terms of that. Yeah, I just told them that this is not normal. So that's all I needed to say.
Which is kind of weird. I don't mean to put Steve Kerr on the spot here, but last week he said, and I'm guessing it might have been in that same press conference you're alluding to, he mentioned that in his 32 years in the NBA as a player and coach and executive, he's seen 20 plus fistfights happen in practice. I mean, so he was trying to like downplay a little bit, right? And you could tell that he's kind of backtracking a little bit off that. I don't think he's downplaying anymore. Those young players, by the way, the Warriors did play a preseason home game last night. Jordan Poole was fantastic. He had 18 points in a quarter, finished with 25 for the game. But a couple players have really stuck out to me. There were three of them specifically. One was James Wiseman, who I thought looked fantastic. He had 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 18 minutes of play. Jonathan Kuminga, who started at the power forward position in place of Draymond Green. He had a fantastic game, in my opinion. In 26 minutes, had 12 points, but more importantly, 8 rebounds. That's been one number, one statistic of his that he's been lagging on and struggling with a little bit, is getting that rebounding number up. Also 6 for 6 from the line, which is very impressive as well. And then Patrick Baldwin Jr. I mean, we're inching closer and closer to calling this kid the steal of the draft. He only played 7 minutes last night. But he was 2 for 4 from beyond the arc for 6 points. That stroke looked good. He played some sound defense. And I want to play this soundbite from Patrick Baldwin Jr. This was during today's practice, or after today's practice, I'm sorry, where he talked about the Draymond incident, and he wanted to give his reaction to it. So here is Patrick Baldwin Jr., better known as Peanut Butter and Jelly.
Yeah, I think in the moment you kind of saw the first reaction, but I had seen stuff similar to that. But I mean, overall as a basketball team, I think we just got to take that and move forward and really push together, because I mean that is kind of a jarring image, but I think overall as a team moving in the right direction, and I think in the moment your reaction can kind of be dictated by the situation.
Yeah, and Kylen, I guess let me ask you this. What if, and this is why I'm a little conflicted about this whole thing, because the video looks awful, right? I mean, that just looks like bullying. It looks like, one of the highest levels of physical assault you can certainly conjure in your mind, let alone see visibly. But let's say, for the sake of argument here, this is a regular occurrence. Punches like that are a regular occurrence. And that we just never see it because this stuff routinely is not leaked out. Like Bobby Portis was suspended 8 games for his punch on Mirotic. I know that some people say that was self-defense. Latrell Sprewell choked out PJ Carlissimo during a Warriors practice back in, I believe, 97 or 98. So, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, what if like that level of violence is normal? Because a lot of people are actually saying that. Patrick Baldwin Jr. just came out and said he's seen this before. I've spoken to individuals who say this, they're situations that could be even worse than this. I've heard some really wild stories that I can't share on the show that involve like weapons being brought to practices. I guess in lieu of that information, look, there's no doubt this looks awful. But let's say for the sake of argument, this is normal, right? This happens regularly. These athletes have just, an insane amount of testosterone running through them when they're practicing, and sometimes they can't control their emotions. Does that change your opinion on this at all? Or do you still feel that Draymond was completely over the line and deserves to be suspended and scorned like he is?
I still think that he deserves to be suspended. It doesn't necessarily change my opinion. I know one video that you tweeted, which I thought was interesting, was of Kwame Brown, who I thought was defending Draymond more than, he should have been maybe scrutinizing him for what he did. However, he pointed out that he had never seen this happen. Well, he'd seen a lot of fistfights between 2 important pieces of a championship team.
Yes, he did.
And I think that's one thing that separates this from maybe incidences of the past. And I would have to imagine that of the 20 fist fights that Kerr saw throughout his career that he's alluded to, they weren't involving two players of this magnitude and caliber of importance to a team that is fresh off an NBA championship and really, should or could defend that championship. So I think that context is also really important in determining, is this normal?
Yeah.
There's no question that there have been fist fights in the past in the NBA and in basketball. To me, though, hey, maybe this high level of passion, competitiveness leads to this. I just still don't think it makes it right. I think, those players in the past probably should have been disciplined as well. I understand that tempers can flare in the game of basketball. However, that, doesn't give teammates a right to unleash on teammates when it comes to punching people. Like, I still don't believe that. And I thought what Kwame Brown pointed out was interesting as far as the two players involved in this specific incident. I think the context is important. The fact that Draymond Green is so much bigger than Jordan Poole. Another interesting thing that Marcus Thompson wrote in his article, he's like, okay, so you want to use the argument, fights happen in basketball. And he's like, especially in street ball, he's like, the way that this would be equalized because Draymond Green is so much bigger and it wasn't a fair fight when it comes to physicality is that Jordan would get one of his big guys or, a bigger person or people to then go beat up Draymond. He's like, so he's like, if you want to use that argument, then that's how that would be responded to in the streets in the game of basketball when a fight breaks out. But the problem is that Draymond Green is supposed to be Jordan's person. Draymond Green is supposed to be the bigger guy going to bat for Jordan when it comes to being pushed around on the floor or outside the floor or whatever. And that's where, I don't know, to me, it's also the two people involved is a big part of that and is a big factor in that. And yeah, I understand fights happen in basketball. I don't think it makes it right. I don't think it enhances the culture of the Golden State Warriors, and it's like they're a team that's looking to move forward and defend a championship. I don't think it makes it any better. So why do it? Why can't Draymond keep his emotions in check? I mean, to me, that should be a focus for him throughout the season because he also, to me, not the punch, but he is a repeat offender and letting his temper get the best of him and sometimes making stupid decisions. And Draymond getting ejected in important moments for the Warriors because, something comes out of his mouth or he's a hothead or, whatever happens, that's not okay either. So to you also have someone who has a repeated issue of having some emotional outbursts or letting his emotions get the best of him. And I think that also is a factor as well in regards to how it should be handled and responded to. Like at some point, it's got to be like, listen, like you're going to sit out. And I'm not advocating for a big suspension, a couple game suspension. Listen, we need you to work with someone on that anger, getting that under control. If he's going through something in his personal life, like how, can he get help, whatever that may be in whatever form that may be. Because to me, Draymond Green has always been such a team player for this Warriors side, and I just don't think that's him. Like, that's not him. And that's something that I actually think he mentioned as well in the press conference. Like, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. He's usually goes so hard for his teammates, and to me, that signals that there's something either going on in his personal life or there is some hidden resentment and tension towards Jordan Poole. To me, there's got to be one or two things that really sparked him to go off like that. Because, like, watching the video, it's kind of scary because to me, it just doesn't look like Draymond Green to turn on a teammate that quickly with that much vitriol.
Yeah. And I think back to it's been, fairly widely reported that Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant got into a fight where Shaq punched Kobe. I think we all are familiar by now with Michael Jordan punching Steve Kerr. It just makes me wonder if there was video of these incidents. How much would we have re-examined our perception of Jordan and Shaq, because these are two individuals who publicly are borderline revered. Shaq has all sorts of endorsement, deals. Jordan now is an NBA owner. It's just so complicated. All I know for certain is that this thing has marred what was supposed to be a celebratory moment for the Golden State Warriors with a ring celebration coming up a week from today. We're recording this on October 10th. And, I also posted a video from Anchorman of that one guy saying, "You and your poop mouth. And I feel like Dub Nation is disappointed in Draymond Green the way the city of San Diego was disappointed in.
Yeah, I saw that you posted. It was funny, and it did. I think it does resonate with the reaction from a lot of fans.
Yeah. And then Kermit Washington, going back even more old school, his punch on Rudy Tomjanovich during a game is still out there. You can see it. It caused severe injury. I think he was suspended in that incident for 60 games, and at that time fined $10,000. It remains to be seen what happens here. Did you get a chance, by the way, shifting gears to actually an on-court performance? What was your feedback from the Warriors-Lakers preseason game? A lot of people like to play down the importance of preseason. I actually think there's value in it, especially for the youngsters playing, who are fighting for playing time, fighting for a roster position. And oftentimes the preseason sets up momentum for the regular season. What are your thoughts on last night's Warriors-Lakers game? Your thoughts?
No, yay. We can talk about some actual basketball. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's just very unfortunate that we're having to talk about this as the Warriors look to begin a season to defend their title.
Yeah.
Unfortunate this happened. It's unfortunate that's been the focal point going into game one and during this last week or a couple days of preseason. I do hope they move forward. I hope Draymond Green figures out a way to earn the trust back, and that he hopefully, maybe after the right amount of time to let Jordan cool off, that they can try to get together and figure out what the next steps are. As for actual basketball, I'm very excited about this team and very hopeful. And I do think the preseason is important experience for some of these young players. You mentioned a couple of the players that I was most impressed by or circled as well. Jordan Poole, obviously being one of them. And I think it's very telling of his character, the fact that he responded in the way he did. He had every distraction in the world thrown at him leading up to this game. I mean, he had every reason to not be focused on playing actual basketball. And to come out there and play the way he did says a lot about his maturity, his character, and his attitude. And so I thought that was fantastic to see from Jordan Poole, and he deserves a lot of credit for, like I said, just the maturity and dedication to be able to come out, block out everything that's happened in the last couple of days, and to perform in that way. Preseason game or not, like I think that speaks volumes about Jordan Poole. And he looked so impressive. Jordan Poole to me is the most dangerous when he is on the attack on the dribble and when he really drives to the basket, because he keeps defenders honest in that way. And he can finish at the rim. He's excellent at that. If not, and he draws defenders to him, then does a good job. And he's gotten much better at dishing to teammates who are open. And then we know he can't hit threes and he can't hit outside shots. I just think the times where we saw him struggle last season were when he was forcing out outside shots constantly and not attacking the rim with the amount of confidence that we saw him attacking the rim yesterday. So I thought it was great to see him really seemed really confident with the ball in his hands. And the second thing was the combination of him and Wiseman, really exciting to watch. They had a couple of pick and roll actions that were really pretty. And it just gives a lot of options for the Warriors, especially in that second unit. Poole can come off the screen. He can attack on the dribble. He can deliver back to Wiseman. I thought that Wiseman looked like he's really improved in his floor spacing and just like a recognition of what's going on and where to be setting screens. I thought he looked much better than he did when we saw him 2 years ago during his rookie season. Like he seemed like he's really come leaps and bounds, and he was in the right places at the right time. He was reading the game well and knowing the appropriate time to either, go up for the slam, the layup, to, I just thought that his floor spacing looked so much better and decision making looked better. So I think that's a really promising thing for the Warriors. And that leads me to say that James Wiseman, I thought also was really impressive. Those two seem like they have a lot of chemistry. And that's something they both talked about. James Wiseman mentioned in his post-game comments that him and Jordan constantly communicate, and they've worked together a lot in the offseason. And to me, it seemed very evident in the way they played, that they have a certain connection and that they know, when and where to go with each other. And so that's great, because for the Warriors, these are their young players, not their stars. And they have this type of connection and this type of chemistry, and they are making things happen. So the future of the NBA, man, it's bright for the Warriors, and the rest of the NBA better watch out, because I think those two have a lot of potential in being able to partner up and really just be dangerous for the Warriors attack. And then, another player I want to mention that you didn't mention before we wrap up is I thought Dante DiVincenzo looked really nice. I really liked him running the floor and his ball handling when Jordan Poole was out. And I think it's great to have another ball handler as another option. I know Poole takes a lot of those responsibilities when Curry's off the floor, but there's also going to be times where Curry's going to be resting this season, and you need some additional depth and someone else who can run the point. And I thought DiVincenzo looked great. He's got like a really nice change of pace where he can like explode and get to the basket. I think he sees the floor well. He had one time where he kind of like drew out an ISO, and then he dribbled to the he took it to the rack and then like handed it off to Wiseman, who got one of his layups that he got. And so I don't know. I just thought he was a really nice playmaker. I thought he made the right decisions. He found teammates he needed to find. Like I said, he looked confident on the ball and he attacked and then dished out. So I don't know. I really, really liked his play. And I think that he looks like a really good fit for the Warriors, which the front office, they do no wrong, because somehow every season they seem to find these role players that do fit into the system really well. And I think that DiVincenzo is going to be nice to have in the Warriors' back pocket as a potential playmaker and someone who can run the floor.
Absolutely. I want to play the soundbite real quick because you're right. A lot of people noticed the Poole Wiseman connection, and they seem to have chemistry on the court. And Wiseman, it's weird to say this, and he acknowledged this, or someone brought it up with him in the post-game press conference, how that was his first game ever in front of a Warriors home crowd. His rookie year, the pandemic prevented crowds from being there. He didn't play at all last year. He seemed to be very happy playing in front of a crowd and getting that support. And here is Steve Kerr following today's practice, kind of following up on talking about James Wiseman and his success so far.
With James missing all of last season, and he was watching a lot of film. He's been picking Kevon Looney's brain. Has he is he where you thought he would be at heading into this training camp, and so far with 3 preseason games under his belt, or is he maybe exceeded where you might think he needs to be, or where you thought he might be?
I think he's further along than I expected him to be, but a lot of that is because he had a great summer and he's been healthy. He played in more pickup games than any of our guys this summer. So finally getting healthy and finally having a summer with our summer league team, and then working out individually with our development coaches, and then now having a training camp. I mean, this is how it's supposed to look. The problem is it was delayed for a couple of years with COVID and the injuries. So, I told him better late than never, and he's running his own race, and he's coming along really well. So we're happy with where James is.
Yeah, so am I. Any final thoughts, Kylen, before we wrap things up here on a Monday?
I think that was really encouraging. James Wiseman seems to be having a lot of fun. He seems healthier than he's been in the last 2 years, and he's showing a lot of improvement from where he was at in his rookie season. So Warriors' future can be very, very dangerous. They've done a good job of keeping these dual timelines going, of riding the success of those veterans and continuing to develop their young talent. And I'm excited to see where the season goes. I'm excited to see Wiseman get to experience a regular season game. Like, I could hear the fans through my TV really loud late in the game. I tweeted about it. I can't remember what they were chanting, "Let's go Warriors" or whatever, but like super loud. And like, this is a preseason game. Like, I'm so excited to see the environment when the Warriors are hosting the Grizzlies this season and some of their other bigger, I don't want to say rivals, but some of the other bigger teams across the NBA. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited Wiseman's going to get to experience that. And I think this team still has a bright future despite the drama of the last several days.
Yeah. And I remember that exact moment. I saw it because I remember when you tweeted that. It was weird. It came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden the whole arena started chanting, "Let's go Warriors." And I think the play even had stopped for a second, but they kept at it. And it resulted in, I believe, in a Wiseman basket, if I remember correctly. It resulted in a positive play. But yeah, that was awesome. Am I going to see you tomorrow for the Blazers?
Possibly.
Okay. Hope to see you there. And for everyone else, the Warriors preseason continues tomorrow. They play the Portland Trailblazers. I don't know who's coming on the show yet. I think I'm going to be Brian Murphy, who hosts the Murphy Mac show on KNBR. But regardless, thank you everyone for tuning in. Kylen, great to see you again. Are we done? We good? That's it? I think, right? Okay, bye-bye. Later, everyone. Peace.